Hey guys, hopefully everyone is doing well. Today's target is to solve question number 5.7. We are doing CPV, cost profit volume analysis, and here is another very interesting question regarding break even. But as usual, before starting our question, we will uh, frequently and we will take a very speedy roundabout are concepts. The first concept which we have discussed was fixed costs, means which will never be altered. You are working for 2 days, 3 days, or full month, that type of expense would be same. Even if few workers are working in the factory in a month, or all workers are present and working in the factory for the full month, the cost would be same. The example which we have taken was the rent of the factory building. Now you can understand that if some workers are working or all workers are working, rent would be same. If they are working for 8 hours or they are working for 24 hours, rent would be same. So fixed cost is a cost which would never be altering, it would be same. Then we have discussed variable cost, and what we have understood, it is directly dependent upon your level of production. If you will increase your level of production, this cost will increase. If you will decrease your level of production, this cost will decrease. Directly dependent upon the scale of working. Let's say you have increased your number of employees in the factory. This kind of expense would be increased. Example, salaries. If you will increase your number of workers, salaries will be increased. So salary is variable cost. If you will increase your level of production, level of sales from 1000 to 2000, electricity bill will be the example, it would be increased. You will decrease your hours to be worked in the factory, electricity bill will be decreased. If you will increase your hours to be worked in the factory, electricity bill will be increased. So what we have several examples regarding variable cost. Some of one we have mentioned over here. Carriage on good purchase, why it is variable? Because if you will work more, that means production will be increased. By increasing your production, your carriage of goods purchase would also be increased, as you will be buying more. Then we have discussed total cost, which is sum of fixed cost and variable cost. Next we have discussed contribution contribution margin, and for this we understood that difference between variable cost and sales, difference between variable cost and sales is called contribution margin. For that, what you will do, you will take sales first, will subtract variable cost from it, with which you will get contribution margin. And then we have seen contribution margin but per unit. And you can see the same formula we will be using, sale minus variable cost. And what change we will do, we will put per unit as coefficient. First word, per unit sales and per unit variable cost, same formula but with an additional word of per unit. You can see over here contribution margin per unit. In this way we can solve. Then we have discussed contribution margin ratio, and that ratio, how do we calculate? By dividing contribution margin to sales. So contribution divided by sales multiplied by 100, it would be called your contribution margin ratio. Then we have discussed break even point, and you know it's the important aspect of this chapter, break even point. The point where your sale or revenue kamai, where your revenue is equal to your cost expenses, where your income is exactly equal to your expense, where your sales is exactly equal to your cost, that point is called break even point. But technically we can solve it through a formula. There are two types of break even point in terms of units. For that, you will take fixed cost and divide it by per unit cm. Okay, please give your attention to this formula. This is very important phenomena, and you will use these formulas almost in every next question. And then we have discussed break even point, but in terms of dollar, in terms of dollar or amount, for that you will use your fixed cost and will divide by CM ratio. CM ratio means contribution margin ratio, and here you can see we have already calculated and understood how to calculate contribution margin ratio. Same ratio will be used to calculate break even point in terms of dollar. So now I can request that take a screenshot of these formulas and repeat as many times as you can repeat them, as they will be helping you a lot in understanding the chapter. So now let's see our question, and you will see that whatever we have just repeated as our formulas over here, you can see all these formulas, and these formulas will be present in the solution of next question as well. Maxon name single product, and we have explained earlier in the previous question as well. Single product means there is only one product. That means if there is a furniture manufacturer, they are manufacturing chairs only and no other product is being manufactured. Suppose they are cement factory, they are making cement only. If it's a book seller and he is selling only one book, there is only one product in the shop whose selling price is 8 and variable cost is 6, fixed expenses. Without knowing anything what is requirement and what is next target, we are going to make contribution margin income statement as a first step. So for that purpose, the first step is sales. As you know, contribution margin income statement sales, and then you will subtract variable cost, you will get contribution margin, then again you will subtract your fixed cost and you will get your net margin. These are two answers which are actually the main goal. How do you calculate? Here you will multiply units with per unit and you will get your total sales. And same formula you will use over here, units multiply by per unit you will be putting here. But obviously what you will do, units of sales will be multiplied by per unit of sales, and unit of total unit produced multiplied by per unit. That means this unit and per unit will be for variable cost and this unit and per unit will be for sales. Here there will be a complete column which will be used to calculate the amounts or rupees. So what you will do, a column will be used to calculate the amounts. Now here what is happening, solve the company's break-even point in unit sale using the equation method. This you can use as equation method because we will solve the remaining equation over here. But for the time being, let's put the amount which are already available. Break-even point is needed, and for your understanding what we have discussed over here, break-even point where your cost is equal to your revenues, where your income is equal to your expense. That means you are earning nothing. How much you are receiving is equal to how much you are paying. For example, if you are buying a commodity for rupees 10 and you are selling the same commodity for rupees 10, what you have done, you have bought or buying any commodity for rupees 10 and you are selling the same commodity for rupees 10. So now let me know how much profit you are earning. If you have bought any commodity for rupees 10 and you have sold that commodity for 10 as well, so how much profit you will earn? Most of you can answer it easily that we are earning nothing because our cost is equal to our revenue. This is called break even point, where your cost and revenue is equal to zero. Hopefully you people have understood now what would be your profit. Final profit would be equal to zero, and why we have discussed it, that if It is break even point, that means you are earning nothing. Fixed cost is given in your book, that is 5500, put over here. This is your fixed cost. And now to calculate contribution margin, you will start reversing your statement. Here your answer, you will go upside, that means reversing. To reverse your calculation, you will change the signs. Here fixed cost is less. When you will go reverse, it would be added, and 5500 added 0 would also be equal to 5500. So your contribution margin has also arrived, which is 5500. Now for sale, you will multiply unit into per unit. Your per unit is available over here, sale price 8 and variable cost 6, and next is written per unit. So it means sale is 8 per unit. You can use this per unit place and can write 8 is per unit sale price, but units are still unknown. Variable cost you can see is 6. You will come over here, that is per unit. You can see mention over here, variable cost is per unit. So you can put 6 for per unit. Units are still missing. So here we are stuck. We will not be able to calculate total amount of sales. We will not be able to calculate total amount of variable cost. Why? Because units are not available. This is our requirement actually. Solve the company's break-even point in unit sales. These units are unknown, but simply we can calculate by putting an equation. And this is also our requirement using equation method. As you know that contribution margin formula, which we have discussed over here, you know that sales minus variable cost is equal to CM, which is also written over here. So what I was discussing, contribution margin, sale minus variable cost, you can see over here, sale less variable cost is equal to contribution margin. So we can write the same formula over here as well. What we have discussed, contribution margin is equal to sale minus variable cost. Same formula has been appeared over here. Contribution margin answer is available, that is 5500. So put 5500 and then is equal to sales. Sales is this, but still unknown. 8 multiplied by unit mean we can use U as unit. So total sale is 8U over here. 8 multiplied by unit. For unit we are using U. That means 8U is the sales. And then follow this formula, sale minus variable cost. Variable cost would become 6U. Now let's proceed next for the next step. 8U minus 6U. How much amount you will get? 8U minus 6U. It means 2U, you will get 8 minus 6. 2 here is being multiplied by multiplying 2 is being multiplied by U at right side of is equal to, if you want to take this 2 from right side to left side, here it is being multiplied. When you will take it to the left side, it would be divided. So 5500 is divided by 2, and what left on right side? Just U. And next step is to calculate 5500 divided by 2. So you have got the amount 2750 is what? U for units. So we have calculated units, that is 2750. Now we can replace English word units by 2750, which we have recently calculated. In the similar way, units of sales and cost will always be equal. So here change your units. How many units we have calculated? 2750. This way your statement can be completed, and now you can use these amounts for your calculation. 2750 is multiplied by 8. So you have got your total sales. And your variable cost, you can calculate 2750 would be multiplied by 6. Cost has arrived. 5500 was already written over here, but we'll have to check how. If you will subtract your cost from sales, as our formula is suggesting, sale minus variable cost. So sale minus variable cost. Answer should be equal to 5500. While 5500 was already written, let's check it out and you can see it's also 5500. It means our portion is completed. For one, we were needed to break even point in terms of units, and units we have calculated 2750, and answer is mentioned over here 2750 first part. And second, break even point in terms of sales. This is your sales 22,000, and answer is mentioned over here 22,000. Sale is okay. And what it is showing, if you are selling a product and receiving 22,000, it would be a stage where you will be on your break even point. That means you will be earning nothing. Whenever somebody will start his or her business, the first point which would come in mind, when there will be a stage where our profit and losses are equal, where how much we are earning is equal to our cost, that point is called break even point, and we have solved it. Both answer arrived. Question number three, part 3 and part 4 is about again break even point in unit, break even point in sales. Read it. Break even point in terms of units, break even point in terms of sale, one or two part. And in third part, break even point in terms of unit, break even point in terms of sale. Again, the difference is using formula method. Here you have used an equation. What you have done, you have used an equation method over here. So you may write it equation method. Okay. And now he is asking you to calculate both break even point in terms of unit and sale, but using a formula. Formula of break even point we have written over here already. I'm very hopeful that you have complete idea. There are two break even points, first and second. It is hidden behind this question, doesn't matter. I'm just willing you people to have it in your mind without looking at anywhere else. So break even point in terms of units. How would you solve it? You will take fixed cost and you are going to divide it by CM per unit. Okay, we will solve it first. How much fixed cost we have? In question you can see you have your fixed cost 5500. So you can put over here fixed cost 5500 and you need to divide it by CM per unit. Per unit CM, how would you calculate? That formula we have already discussed. Contribution margin per unit would be calculated by sales per unit, and you will subtract variable cost but per unit. And this formula was written on above, and I was saying all formulas will be used in equivalent way. Sales per unit, look at your question. Per unit sale price is 8 and per unit cost price is 6. So you can calculate it. It is taken as the date 8, and we can put brackets because Excel is taking it as date. Variable cost is 6. 8 minus 6 means 2 is your contribution margin per unit. Okay, now come over here. What we were writing, 5500 divided by CM per unit mean contribution margin per unit, which we have calculated by subtracting per unit variable cost from sales per unit. And the answer was 2. You can put over here. And now it's time to calculate. 5500 is to be divided by 2. So 2750 again has arrived, with that we have already calculated. But here you have calculated it through equation, and equation was applied over here, and you have calculated. Here you have put a formula with which you calculated break even point in terms of unit. The last and the fourth requirement is to calculate break even point in terms of sales. So you must have formula in your mind. We need to have break even point, break even point in terms of dollars. This is what he was saying in our requirement. We need to have dollar or amount to be put over here. How do you calculate this? You need to have fixed cost, and that would be divided by CM ratio, and you must have formula of CM ratio in your mind. Fixed cost is 5500, and you need to divide it by CM ratio. So contribution margin ratio, how would you calculate? Contribution margin ratio would be calculated by taking contribution margin, and you will divide it by sales. You may take per unit or you may take total. Contribution margin we have just calculated, per unit is 2, and sale price per unit you can see over here is 8. So you will be dividing it by 8. Let's guess the, again it has taken as date. So contribution margin was 2, and you need to divide. I'm just putting a decimal to avoid to be written as date. 2 divided by 8. Let's get its answer. 2 divided by 8 is 0.25. Okay, we were solving this formula, break even point in terms of dollars or amount. Fixed cost would be divided by CM ratio. CM ratio we have calculated by dividing contribution margin with sales. 0.25 is the answer. So here you can put 0.25. Statement is completed. Now use calculator to get the answer. 5500 divided by 0.25. So we have got our second answer as well. Now you can see that both answers are available. What you have done already, you have used an equation. First, 2750 was the answer using equation method, and 2200 answer, 22,000 break-even sales point was also calculated through an equation. And right here you have used same technique but in a different way. A formula was used to calculate break-even point. This 2750 with equation method, and this 2750 you have calculated through a formula, and formula must be in your mind. We have already written over here. Okay, the second thing was contribution margin in terms of sales. You have calculated it through equation over there, and here is break even point in terms of amount you have calculated over here. So there are four answers which you have calculated: 2750 and 22,000 by equation method, and 2750 22,000 through formula method. Same answer has been arrived. So it was your question number 5.4, where you have completed all the requirements of the question. So our time for 5.7 is completed. I'm just uh, opening you people to ask any question regarding problem number 5.4. Solution has been completed, and I am requesting you to please repeat and revise it again and again. So if there is any query, any question regarding the solution, you may ask and you may put over here. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully we will be meeting soon again for the solution of any other question. Up till then, please take care of yourself. 5.7 completed, and we will be um, inshallah contributing towards the solution as well. Thank you very much for your time. It's time to say goodbye. Allah Hafiz.